Yesters of refraction of Johann get is the most perfect. Really, there are two rays, from which one comes out the yellow and the red, and the other one comes the cyan and violet. When those two rays cross by the yellow and the cyan, green comes out. And when they join by the other side from the red and the violet, magenta. Here you see this elevated platform that is illuminated by three lights of different colors: red, indigo blue, and green. You can see that the shadows are exactly the complementary colors. And this is what we call the bell curve, which comes from the solar spectrum. It's a curve that rises up and falls down, and it has of all the colors. If we take into account that it is in 2 octaves, the color in the center is only in 1 octave. Meanwhile, the other colors are divided in 2 octaves in each side, and they all have the same amplitude, the same quantity. Here you can see it in the solar spectrum that the maximum color is yellow and it's in the center. It's in 1 single octave and it's in the upper side of the curve. This is called the bell curve, and it shows the coherence of the solar spectrum. The most important discovery of our times was done with such a simple way, like putting thermometers to measure the temperature between colors. And because the thermometers on both ends would stay without color and light, they discovered that rose up 2 degrees in the infrared side and it brought down 2 degrees in the ultraviolet side. This led to the discovery of the whole electromagnetic spectrum and all aspects of light, from X-rays to gamma rays to the deep ultraviolet that the atmosphere of the Earth doesn't let in. We are protected and they won't come into our atmosphere because it would burn us alive. For that reason, the colors represent the biochemical composition of everything that lives under the sun. And it all has a waveform, a signature, a specific biochemical composition of light, represented in the amount of colors that is manifested by its spectrum, its light, that comes out from the cells by the biophotons. It is called spectral analysis. One can do it in many ways, and you relate this part of the physics with medicine. Here you have the spectrum of some leaves. You have the spectral analysis of an apple. Here you have it of a cat compared to a dog. And here you have a human being. It is the amount of colors, of biochemical composition, of that entity, of that biopsychic being that lives in planet Earth. Everything is related. It is waves that are slower or faster, that rise up with octaves. The sound is related to light and colors. For that reason, we can see a spectral analysis of a human voice, and we always look it to have the solar spectrum that is called the bell curve. As we come up 32 octaves, we have the relationship of sound to light colors. From the musical notes of sound, then we can see what we have closest to us in a vibrational level, which is the voice. We'll also show all the biochemical levels of the body. Here we see a human voice with the normal imbalances that happen when we compare the musical notes to the colors. In another way, we can see here the analysis of a normal human voice compared to the waveform of a Tibetan bell and the waveform of the sound of a dolphin. You can see it has more coherence. They're all vibrational waves that are fitting one inside the other. They're embedding themselves, they are forming, they're giving shape to one another. According to the size of the wave and according to the size of the shape of the organ or the way it can penetrate to the holes of the body, it creates movement that we need inside the body. And what we call harmonics is that suddenly one wave fits exactly inside the other, and it triggers it to go up, giving it more volume, giving it more amplitude. But the harmonics is something amazingly wonderful. It is something that manifests the spirit of life, that elevates us to other dimensions. For this reason, music is healing, because all of the waves massage the organ, penetrate the body through the holes. Ultrasound also penetrates the body through the pores of the skin. They're all 5 spirals of the golden mean of sacred geometry. All the universe is composed of a perfect proportion so that everything fits in harmony and coherence. We clearly understand that the beginning of the electromagnetic is sound, which is the slowest wave, gives shapes to the things, meanwhile the fastest wavelengths from sunlight and color affects all biochemistry of life. And the greatest impulse is the heart pulse that gives movement to all the rest of the body, that it enters into synchronicity, into coherence. We have 3 pulses, 3 main beats, the rhythm of the heart, the rhythm of the breathing, and the cranial pulse that we can perceive with our hands. The coherence that exists between these rhythms, these pulses, beats of life, we can feel it with our own perception of the hands. The cardiac pulse around 64 cycles a minute, the breathing rhythms around 16 cycles a minute, and the cranial pulse around 8 cycles per minute. They would enter into coherence. They would be the same frequency in different octaves, the same multiples. If we go into the faster waves, we can also measure it with computer technology, with an electrocardiogram, 64 cycles per minute. It can also reach a phi coherence of sacred geometry, and the feelings of the heart will be able to synchronize the thoughts of the brain. An electroencephalogram will measure the alpha waves that are connecting with the Schumann resonance, the waves of the Earth, between 8 and 16 cycles per second. And this is the waves that are as big as a bedroom, and is how we actually enter to sleep in Mother Earth's. And also the delta waves that are as large as our place in nature, larger than a house, where we can nurture ourselves of all the colors from nature as well as the colors from food. They all correspond to a perfect symphony that our organism has to do, as well as the brain, the cardiac rhythm, the respiratory and the cranial rhythm. We have the kidney of 1,400 cycles per minute. Taking into account all the cycles, the kidney, for example, has a contraction every minute, the potassium level every 21 hours. The stomach is 0.180 cycles per second. It's more or less a contraction every 3 minutes. 12 hours the cycle of nurturing of the liver, as well as the 28 days of the menstrual cycle. They're all cycles, they are waves that have to fit perfectly. They have to coordinate the music of the body. We also have a spectral analysis of the voice that goes from 64 to 512 cycles per second. It is how we reach harmonics that go to the color and light. Here you see I am helping a person to see their heart coherence in one of the dolphin intensives that we had with many patients. Here you see a normal electrocardiogram and an EKG that measures coherence. The upper part you see when the peaks that have harmonics of the heart, when it has peaks because the heart has harmonics. The bottom part is the real cardiac pulse, and in the center part of the graph, when it has a lot of peaks, it's because it has a lot of coherence. Really, this happens when we feel intense feelings in our heart. We can also see with an electrocardiogram, with an electroencephalogram that you see here in orange color, at times they join in the same frequencies, in the same harmonic. We have numbers of ranges of separation between the harmonic, and the number of sacred geometry comes up when we really speak from our heart, feel enthusiasm, love, and we also have other emotions related to other numbers.